It makes me really upset that people think that their God would send somebody to hell for being the way that they are.
Yes.
It makes me upset to think that because you're a little different and you have a different belief, that you don't belong in this world.
Yes.
Or that you should be put into therapy to change who you are, or put into whatever to change who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's very, what's the word? Hypocritical?
Yes, it's for sure that. It's also just outlandish to think that you know something about someone because of a preference.
Right.
Whatever it is, right? And I think I know what you're talking about, and I think we should talk about it. All right, have you ever experienced someone making you feel that way? First of all, has anyone said that to you? Has anyone ever judged you for being gay?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I have an uncle who is totally against it.
Really?
And it hurt my feelings because I thought he was somebody that I could trust, I guess you can say.
What is he against? Let's maybe clear that part up.
He doesn't like the fact that I'm married to a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So he believes that I should have married a man and should have given this world a family and like the traditional stuff. Like, and he's Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
So he's my mom's brother. And I didn't even know that. Okay, so when I came out to my parents, my mom was really upset. My mom was like, I can't believe you. I can't believe that this is happening. Where did I go wrong? Like, she thought it was about her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Mom, I'm sorry, but this is not about you.
Yeah.
You know, like, you didn't do anything wrong. It's not about you. It's just how it is. It's just who I am. And out of everybody, I would have never imagined that my grandma was going to be the one to be like, hey, you need to open up your mind and take her in for who she is.
She said that to your mom and to your family? Yeah?
Yeah. So my mom was ready to kick me out. I was a junior in high school, and she was ready to kick me out.
So let's get the timeline right. So you were a junior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so how long ago was that, would you say?
Oh, shit.
From today?
That was 11 years ago.
So 11 years ago is when all this has happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so she wasn't very supportive?
No. Okay, so see, I kind of messed up because I knew I was gay from like maybe 5th grade.
But you're saying that's when you told her?
Yeah, I came out to my parents when I was a junior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So when that all happened, my grandma was the one who to tell her, like, hey, if you don't take her in for who she is, you're going to lose a child.
Yeah.
You're going to kick her out. She's going to make her own life without you in it, and then you're going to regret it later on down the road. So out of everybody, I was like, okay, this little old grandma was the one that opened my mom's eyes.
Yeah.
Right? So thinking that my grandma was the one to help me out, I was like, okay, maybe she's not so close-minded, and maybe my aunts and uncles are not like my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So when we had a little get-together for my younger sister's graduation party, he let his colors, my uncle, he was like, he wouldn't say hi to Ricky, he wouldn't say hi to me. Like, he would sit the furthest away from us. He would, like, him and his wife would kind of, like, give us a stink eye kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And just, like, and Ricky was like, okay, so what's his deal? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, maybe he's just not comfortable with it. And my mom showed him the door. My mom was like, you have an issue? That's fine. But you can go have an issue somewhere else.
So this is, so this is obviously when your mom became more cool with it?
Yeah.
So
I'm
when
sorry.
was this? It's okay. I want to make sure I have the timeline right.
Right. So I came out to her when I was a junior.
Okay.
My sister's 4 years younger than I am. So when she graduated high school, my mom was the one that was like stepping up for us with anybody who had an issue.
So what do you think, before we jump into the uncle part, what do you think helped your mom be cool with it? Was it your grandma and she was like, you're right? Was it a warming up period?
I think it was my grandma.
Yeah.
I think it was her, because my mom and I have always had a really good relationship.
Yeah.
My mom, I had a really rough childhood, and Mom and I have always been really close. And this was the one thing that kind of pulled us apart.
So it was the first thing in the history of you and your mom where you felt a disconnect a little bit.
Yeah. And it sucked because I was like, okay, so I felt like I couldn't be myself.
Yeah.
I felt like, because I had already tried, like I said, I knew I was gay when I was like in 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I used to play house with my next door neighbor when I was a kid. you know, and she was a girl.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew all along when I was a freshman in high school, I brought a boy home.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is my boyfriend, like whatever, you know. But I knew all along that that's not what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I kind of gave my mom false hopes, thinking that I was going to be a straight girl.
Well, I think that's part of that era, right? So I maybe don't call it that, but I get what you're saying. It helps me realize, in reality, what it is there's this thing, and I think our generation's going to fix it. I really do.
I hope, yeah.
I think the generation before us, they're just doing what their parents did.
Mm-hmm.
Hence why when your grandma was cool with it, your mom was like, wait, maybe I should be cool with it.
Yeah.
And that's huge because her parents telling her it's okay to be this, and she's doing it to you, and you will do that for your kids one day, or whoever, whether you adopt, have a kid, doesn't matter,
Definitely.
friends, whatever. And so it's like, that's a generational thing, but I think what it is like, it's a expectation, and I think as human beings we need to learn that, like, there is no one way to do something.
Right.
And if you're hurt, it's because of an expectation you had. What's more important? To just go look for someone to fill your expectation, or to understand the people around you may not fill them, and then change your expectations.
Right.
And so I think if I had to guess, there was like I thought I was going to get X, Y, and Z. I don't understand these A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, like, of course I'm against it. But it's an understanding thing. I always think it's an ignorance thing when people say things like that. When people say hateful things, my first thought is never, fuck that guy or fuck that girl, she's dumb. You want to do that. And I never want to say it's never my first thought, because there's some people that are so egregious where you're like, all right, that dude deserves to be beat up. Mostly, 90% of the time, I go, oh, they just don't know yet.
Yeah.
And so it's like, when you approach it that way, you will be very surprised what people will do. Because it's okay to understand that people don't know.
Right.
So when I'll give you an exact story. And this is vulnerable for me. And I talked about tons of stuff in these podcasts, but this is part of one of the things that I went through. I have a really good friend named Raymond, who's gay. And he was one of the first gay people that was my friend. And I think I was 18 years old. In Louisiana, gay people do not exist. I want to tell you this story. When I say that, here's what I mean by that. They do exist. But the culture there is so crazy that if you're gay in Louisiana, or at least the part of the cities where I grew up in, you don't say it. Okay. Because it's such a rough neighborhood where I lived that you're just not allowed to be. And so that's just the culture. And so I didn't grow up around it. And so I didn't understand it at all. From movies, which weren't very nice about it back in the day, music, hence the original or the early Eminem days, you know what I mean, where he's yelling all these words he shouldn't be doing. I'm influenced by it, so I know those things as not to be okay.
Right.
But here's what I do know is that I like people, and you know what I mean? And so essentially I was dating a girl. I moved in with her, and she said, hey, this is my roommate, and his name is Raymond. And this guy to this day is one of my best friends. And if he's listening, he's going to love this story, because he may even have forgot all the details. But let me back that up real quick. Before I ever moved in with him, I worked at Pizza Hut. And he would come and he worked at Subway. And he would bring sandwiches to this girl, Samantha. And this is before I was dating her. I ended up dating her.
Okay.
But at the time, she was actually a manager there. And so he would come and bring her food. And I'm like, who's that guy? And she was like, oh, he's my friend Raymond. And and I hope I say this kindly, looked gay. Like, and I hope that makes sense. Like, he was flamboyant. He had like this, Jimmy Neutron faux hawk thing going on. He the way he talked, he wasn't like super flamboyant, but I'm like, oh, like, this is a gay guy. It was one of those things. And so I remember just that was the way I operated. And so one day I wanted a sandwich from Subway, because when you work at pizza, you eat a lot of pizza.
Oh my gosh,
and so
I'm
like,
heaven.
Yeah, well, you would be.
I love pizza.
But after a while, I was like, hey, I want something different. And so I told Samantha, I was like, hey, tell your gay friend to bring me a sandwich. And she was like looked at me all weird, because she knew it. They were friends.
Right.
And I was like, to me, I was like, why is that rude? Like, he's your friend, he's gay, and I want a fucking sandwich. Like, and what am I saying wrong here? And then she acted weird about it. I'm like, whatever. And so I went to do pizzas, and he came to bring her a sandwich. And I forget his exact words, so I hope I'm not ruining it. But I guess she told him that. And I gave her the sandwich I wanted to give to him. And he showed up with just her sandwich. And I was like, hey, where's my sandwich? He was like, well, this gay guy's name is Raymond, and he's not bringing you sandwiches.
Oh,
or something
shit.
like he said something like, well, Samantha's gay friend has a name, and it's Raymond. And like walked off.
Super sassy.
And I was like, what's his issue? Like, what do you mean? Like, why is that offensive? And then I realized like how later on in life I obviously realized how ignorant that was, and I'm just like whatever. Like, again going back to the word ignorance, I just didn't know.
Right.
And so later on in life we date. I end up moving in, and he's the roommate. She's like, "Oh, it's my roommate Raymond." I'm like, "That's the gay dude that wouldn't bring me a sandwich." And he would go, "My name is fucking Raymond." Like he would get like, and it was funny because like. I'm like, why is he so rude to me? Like, he seems cool. I'm cool. I know I'm cool. Like, why are we not clicking here? And so, obviously, living together, we'd be in the kitchen sometimes or out in the patio. I'd smoke cigarettes a lot back then.
Right.
So we'd be smoking. And I'm like, hey, man, like, what's going on, dude? And he's like, it's that, like, you're labeling me as this thing, that it's who I am, but it's not, like, I'm much more than that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm a human being. You know what I mean? And I started like asking questions because I remember thinking like, well, I'm not trying to offend you, so teach me. Mm-hmm. And he was one of the first people that was like teaching me the culture. Like, hey, man, like we're all just people. Like this is just how I feel. Like I'm attracted to guys. It doesn't mean like I'm attracted to you. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that I want to make you feel uncomfortable. Like even if I was, I would still treat you the same way you would treat a girl that was attractive that you want to feel comfortable.
Right.
And so it's like, I'm like, all right, well that makes sense. Like, you know what I mean? Can I get that sandwich? Like. And we joke about this to this day, but he was one of the first people that taught me that, and he, little by little, like by the end of it, we had grown such a close friendship that I'm like, man, like it flipped, which is also wrong, and I would outrageously defend him when I'm like, that's also like anyone that was like that dude, like he said something like, what do you mean? You're gonna try to beat up my gay friend? Fuck you! You must hate like, and I was overly protective. Okay. And then he would be like, "Hey, man, we gotta talk again." Like that's also not okay. Like, and I'm like, "What do you want from me, man?" Like, but it's ignorance. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Dude, just treat me like you would treat a friend. Like, no matter what. Like, don't specifically defend me because I'm gay. Don't hate me because I'm gay. Just treat me as your friend Raymond."
Else. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, all right, fuck. Like, but it took a long time, and this was years ago, over 10 years ago. And then we became really good friends, and now we have a good relationship. And then now, like, it's my vision's expanded. So when you hear you talk about some of those things, it's a kindness thing. See, I could have been offended by him, but it was more of like, hey, I want to talk to him because I do think he's cool. What's going on here? And he educated me. He never once like yelled at me, told me I was wrong.
But you were willing to learn.
Yeah, so that's what it takes, is for someone to understand. He could have been like, hey, as soon as she wants to move me in, I don't want this guy here. You know what I mean? He could have been closed too. Yeah. But he's like, you know what? Fine, we'll figure it out. And that's the approach you should take when you meet people. Like, it's okay to not know. It's pretending to know that's the issue.
Yeah.
It's those people that say, hey, you're disappointing me. It's okay to go, hey, I don't understand this, but I want to. Right. So bear with me, but let's spend a little time. Let me know what's going on. If you guys enjoyed that clip, click on this icon over here if you want to subscribe to the Clips channel. Click on this icon over here if you want to view the entire podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to that channel as well. See you next time.